But let's go for the next one, which is, oh, I love this guy. Ooh, it's Heteroconger hassi, aka the Spotted Garden Eel. So, the Spotted Garden Eel, Heteroconger hassi, is a small, slender marine fish with a sedentary lifestyle. It mostly lives in like tropical and subtropical waters, on sandy flats and slopes bordering coral reefs. And as you can see, it's mostly found, well, near Australia again, near Japan, India, there's a bit near Madagascar, I think there's some near the Black Sea, and it is found to depths of like 15 to 45 meters. So 50 to 150 feet, not very deep down, because as we'll see, his way of like feeding and stuff requires him to not be too far down. So again, here we're gonna have like the very basic information, with again which groups does he belong to. Again, we are in the domain Eukaryota, the kingdom Animalia, that doesn't change. Also in the phylum Chordata. This time we are in the superclass Osteichthyes, which is where you will find all bony fishes, aka all fishes that are not like sharks and stuff. So sharks, rays, etc. are cartilaginous fishes. And so here we are in the bony fishes group, where you'll find, I guess, what you will mostly call fish, you know? So like clownfish and stuff like that, all of the things you'll see in coral reefs, that's their group. Then we are in the class Actinopteridae, the order Anguilliformes, with like eels and stuff, the family Concretidae, a subfamily Heterocongridae, which is where you'll find all the garden eels, the genus Heteroconger, and the species hassi. So that's again its name. Common name, Spotted Garden Eel. Oh, and maybe also I forgot to explain for the sugar glider, but the name in parentheses here is the name of the first person or group of researchers that found and described the species. Now, that's not to mean that the animal was, unknown before. It's very, very likely that people living near places where you can find them already knew about them, natives and stuff like that. It's just those guys were the first scientists to describe the animal. And so they got the privilege of giving it its species name. Conservational status is of least concern, so no problems. We have loads of those little guys and they're not in danger at all. So that's pretty cool. Their age, impressively enough, can go from 35 to 40 years. Their weight is 230 grams, and its height is 40 to 60 centimeters, so 16 to 24 inches. And so it's a marine animal, meaning it lives in the ocean. It's burrowing, it lives in a little hole it makes in the sand, and it is zooplanktivorous. It eats zooplankton. Then, like the general characteristics of how you can see, what is a spotted garden eel. Well, it has an anguilliform body, aka, an eel-like body. It is an eel, pretty much. So, yeah, very slender and stuff. It has some big eyes, too. It's just that feeding on zooplankton, it's mostly very small stuff. And big eyes let him spot more easily very small stuff. So that's like the reason it has those. Of course, it has a long and thin body covered with a lot of small black spots. That's why it's named the Spotted Garden Eel. But it also has 3 big black spots that are actually how you can identify the species. If you see one that has one large black spot at the front, here, a second one a bit further back, and a third one that surrounds the anus, then it is specifically this species of garden eel. And the first black spot also identifies the gills opening, it's like how fishes breathe and stuff. Then it also has very reduced fins on its caudal, caudal fins and stuff. If you think of a normal fish, it has like fins a bit everywhere that helps him to swim and stuff. But of course, garden eels do not swim much and mostly stay in place, so they don't need that. And their tail, like the caudal fin and stuff, is very stiff and muscular, so they can dig into the sand to make their little burrow. Then diet. Okay, here we are with the diet. So again, it's mostly zooplankton, aka stuff like amphipods, copepods, and water fleas. But just so you know, zooplankton is a part of the plankton, which, if you don't know, is all the animals or plants and stuff that cannot go against the current. It's not really a matter of size, because like stuff like jellyfishes, for example, even big ones, if they can't go against the current and so are a bit at the mercy of it, they are technically plankton too. But of course, a lot of it is very small. So like the 3 I have here, you would have a hard time even seeing them with a naked eye, for example. But yeah, that's mostly what it eats. Hence why they are zooplanktivorous. And their predators, because they have some, again, I am sad to announce, they have stuff like the snake eel and the triggerfish that will eat them. Like if I remember correctly, like snake eels can actually burrow underneath like garden eels to try and get them from behind pretty much, where they don't expect it. Alright, next door, a colony for you and me. So, as you likely know, if you've seen any in aquariums and stuff, you will usually find spotted garden eels, or even just garden eels in general. They live in big colonies, so it can go from hundreds to even thousands of individuals, like the biggest colonies of garden eels ever seen, more than 1,000 individual. And usually you'll all see them, you know, facing the direction of the current, like in the image, all looking the same way because, of course, they're looking for stuff that is stuck in the current, like plankton. You can have like 15 eels per square meters, so they are quite close together. And the center of the colony is usually occupied by the largest male. So there is a bit of, I guess, fighting and stuff. Like they actually fight between each other when they're too close, and like the biggest and strongest boy, the strongest noodle wins and, you know, keeps its place or like goes towards the middle usually. Why exactly? I don't think we know. You would think, you know, maybe you would get more food at like the edges, though I'm guessing it's more of a you are more safe in the middle. And it's also like females can go towards the middle to find the strongest males and stuff like that. So it does make some sense. And talking about females, you know, trying to mate and stuff, while mating, they entwine their upper halves, as you can see in the picture, together with their tails, remaining in their individual burrows. But, you know, it's pretty cute like that. And they can stay that way for hours, while fertilization is taking place. Okay, now some more in-depth fact. So, the etymology of Heteroconger, just in case, you know, it's from the Greek, heteros, other, and Latin conger, meaning conger. And conger just is another word for eel, pretty much. So it's like they named it other eel. Yeah, scientists are not very creative sometimes, not gonna lie. It's like, hey, it's just another kind of eel, you know? The threat to humans is harmless, in case you were wondering. Because I know they look like bloodthirsty animals, of course. They adapted to live in more exposed sandy areas because of reduced competition with other fishes. So yeah, usually other kind of fishes you will find near coral reefs and stuff, and not so much in like just very sandy places because there's not much to eat. And also those type of places tend to have like stronger currents, which usually normal fishes don't like much. It takes them too much energy to go against that current to like hunt for prey and stuff like that. And so that's why garden eels evolved to fill that niche. So they don't have to expend too much energy because, well, they're mostly burrowed, and then they have access to, you know, a different source of food compared to other fishes. And so that's why they managed to thrive into a different place. They emerge about a third of their body out of their burrows while feeding, but it can vary depending on the force of the current. And so yeah, if the flow of water gets too fast, they retract into their burrow as it becomes too difficult for them to feed. Makes sense, right? I mean, if it's way too fast, they can't even stay upright anymore. They're like, hey, in the wind. These small nostrils are positioned in the center of the upper lip. Again, that's like just a fact I saw. Juveniles have a very thin and completely black body. So be wary if you see a completely black garden eel. It's not always a different species. It's maybe just a juvenile, like a baby. So we were talking about bones before, you know, it's like bony fishes. Well, they have 163 vertebrae. That's a lot more than you have, all right? Again, you know, very long body equals very long spinal cord and stuff. The caudal skeleton is highly reduced and fortified because, well, compared to other fishes, they don't need to swim, so the intrinsic caudal musculature is reduced. And some of the muscles are even absent because they just don't need them. And so, yeah, evolution, you know, got away with them. You know, it was like, we don't need it, fuck off. Stuff like that. They usually only leave their burrows to move closer to potential mates during mating season. They like pretty much never move. They make the little hole and then they're fine. No need to move anymore. If two males end up too close to one another, they may fight over territory and nearby females. So that's how, again, you end up with like the strongest males at the center of the colony. Garden eels are pelagic spawner, like a lot of fishes actually. So that means that they just, release the eggs and sperm into the water, and then it's like, yeah, whatever happens, And then the babies actually just live in the ocean, like in open waters and stuff. So that's what mostly pelagic means. The like larvae and stuff won't live like on the sand like the adults do, and will just swim around in the currents and stuff and actually be part of the zooplankton. And so yeah, when the eggs hatch, the juvenile garden eels swim freely until they grow large enough to create their own burrows. A leptocephalus, meaning slim head, is the flat and transparent larva of eels and of garden eels too. The like photo at the bottom, that's a leptocephalus, which, funnily enough, I could not tell you of which species that is. That's like a big problem. Not a lot is known about those little guys. The like juvenile version of garden eels, or even of eels in general. They're very hard to find, they're very small, and even when you do find them, it's very hard to say which species they are from. And I think at first they were even thought to be a different species altogether. So leptocephalises were like considered to be a different species instead of like the juvenile version of an eel. It is only later that scientists realized that like, wait a second, that looks like an eel. Maybe it's a baby eel. Also, I mean, it's a lot because of DNA analysis nowadays that we can find out that kind of stuff. There is also some sexual dimorphism. So again, difference in physiology between males and females, with the male being much larger and his jaw sticking out further. Though again, not recommended to keep as pet, because yeah, it is pretty difficult to recreate their natural environment and they need to live in a big group. So yeah, if you want that as a pet, you need a colony of garden eels and strong current and stuff. So very not so easy. It's only feasible for like big aquariums and stuff. And the species was not discovered until scuba diving became popular. Also interesting. So that's actually a pretty recent discovery, because I guess they're not like easily fishable. They don't really care about usual fishing stuff. They want just zooplanktons and stuff. So yeah, they were, I guess, pretty rare finds before and not really widely reported. And so it's only recently that they were actually discovered.